Miriam, let's take a look at your last set of essays. Local governments pushing companies into regional areas, benefits and drawbacks. Let's see what you wrote. Local politics are forcing companies out of big cities into rural areas. The following essay will elaborate on the pros and cons of this fact. Okay, it's brief, but it's fine. So let's go on with it. One can argue that industries bring wealth to regional locations. These days, rural areas have the reputation of a weak economic situation, thus being less attractive to young workers and their families. This situation not only leads to an overcrowding of cities, but also to smaller towns in the countryside with only elderly inhabitants. In Germany, for instance, one can see that many rural areas in the eastern part are basically empty, forgotten, and therefore poorer, whereas Frankfurt or Munich are wealthy but suffer from a severe overpopulation with the result of high living expenses. If some of the companies move to Eastern Germany, these areas could experience a revival. All right, I really like that last sentence. That's quite good. Let's see. What are the benefits and drawbacks? Okay. I liked this very much, but I also felt like you were basically telling us why this is happening and like what's the situation with regional locations, and you weren't really telling us, I mean, you weren't in a direct way how they would benefit. Does that make sense? But I wanted you to make it a little straightforward, a little more straightforward. All right. So, for example, they have the reputation of a weak economic situation, thus being less attractive to young workers and families. If companies moved to these locations, they would bring new young workers and their families to these locations. This in turn would reduce the overcrowding of cities, but also help populate these regional locations, which up to now have been inhabited only by elderly residents. So do you see what I'm saying? It's the perspective. The perspective is a little different. You're telling me what's wrong with these regional locations, what problems do they have, and instead I wanted you to focus on the positives of moving companies there, okay? So that's one thing I wanted to see different. Let's look at the next paragraph. On the other hand, it shall not be forgotten, not it shall, but it should not be forgotten, that the transportation out of rural areas might bring disadvantages to both the company and the client. I get rid of that comma there. Here, this one. Big cities usually have a well-developed and reliable infrastructure. Get rid of A, well-developed and reliable infrastructure, whereas companies situated in hidden locations might face the problem of on-time delivery due to long distances. Get rid of that comma. Furthermore, truck drivers gradually become a rare good. Fewer people are willing to perform this job, as recently seen in England. I don't like this semicolon here. It's inappropriate. Pictures of empty supermarkets were shown in the media, along with job offers for truck drivers. All right, I kind of know where you're going with this, but I also don't. I wanted you to make it a little more straightforward to us. What's the relationship with the truck drivers? You tell us that they become a rare good, but you don't really tell us why. Like, how is that related to the companies being moved to rural locations? Why is it not the case if these companies remain in big cities? So you kind of lost me here, and I wasn't really sure what the connection was between some of these ideas. Let's see. So that was my concern there. In conclusion, it is safe to say that moving companies to rural areas can only be efficient if the circumstances for these firms can be adapted. If this is the case, it becomes a win-win situation for big cities, regional locations, companies, and workers. All right, so I like your thought process in a lot of this, but it's not entirely appropriate for this essay. So I already explained to you what I thought you should have done with the first paragraph. Here, I wanted you again to kind of really just can I say this? Just make it very straightforward what the disadvantages are. So you said that they might face the problem of on-time delivery due to long distances. Okay. Well, what else could you have said is a problem? How about the fact that a lot of these regional locations lack infrastructure? Okay. So getting them ready for this new onslaught of inhabitants is going to take some time. And it, if these people move there, then the problem will get worse before it gets better. So I thought there were other things you could say. I didn't really understand the whole truck drivers thing here. All right. Let's take a look at your task 1 about the tea leaves. Yes. Okay. The graph illustrates the steps of tea production while distinguishing between the different sorts of tea. It is evident that, irrelevant of the sort of tea, the production starts with the sorting and cleaning of fresh tea leaves. Only after this step, the further procedure depends on the sort of tea. That's a little awkward. Furthermore, it becomes clear that white tea needs the fewest steps. Okay, I like that. So after this step, the process varies depending on the tea type. That would have been okay. All right. So let's continue. While white tea leaves only need to be steamed and dried with an I, not a Y, in order to be consumed, green, oolong, and black have to run through further procedures. Good. All of them need between 4 to 5 additional steps. Withering is essential as a next step for all of them, followed by either pan frying or steaming with frying for green tea leaves, rolling in baskets for oolong tea leaves, rolling into strips for black tea leaves, respectively. Okay, hold on. You lost me here. Respectively. I don't think you even needed that. Green, oolong. Yeah, you didn't need respectively here. All right, so take that out. The next step in the black or oolong tea production involves fermentation. Differing, no ENT. It should be differing only in the duration of fermentation, whereas the leaves of green tea are either being rolled or sharpened. I don't think you mean sharpened, or dried and flavored in the last step of production. After fermentation, the final step in the production of black tea is the drying of the leaves, whereas the leaves of oolong tea have to be pan fried before they are dried in order to be ready to serve. Here, you're kind of losing me. Let's see. You keep kind of going back and forth between the two teas, and while I like it on one level, it is a little confusing. All right. The flowchart also presents the necessary steps for the production of scented tea. It demonstrates that the flavored sorts can only be produced out of green, black, or oolong tea. Their leaves need to be dried again before they can be scented with flowers of fruits. Finally, cooling is needed before consumption. Okay, that's good. Again, Miriam, we've talked about this before. Spelling is a problem. There are lots of mistakes in the spelling, so be careful with that. You're going to get an email. In your email from us, you're going to get a link on how we can continue working together. I hope you will decide to continue working with us so we can help you progress. Yeah, there were some good things in this task 1. I was happy with a lot of it. And as you know, I always focus on some of the things that need a little work so that you know what you need to improve, okay? But keep at it. You're doing great. I know you're stressed for time and you don't have a lot, but let's get you to where you need to be, okay? So hopefully we'll see more of your essays, and I look forward to it. Best of luck to you.